So we're just in a pause after filming some inside scenes, and before we film some outside scenes while the combine harvester goes past. And I'm very lucky here to be joined by Phil Hemming, who's playing Roger Moore. Sorry, Reverend Moore. Hemming. That's an interesting name.
Yes.
That's the person that does the bottom of a cloak, isn't it?
It is indeed, but the version of this that I heard was that actually the surname came over from Scandinavia, possibly the Vikings, and derives from an old Scandinavian word which means werewolf or shapeshifter.
Well, I'd definitely stick with that as my explanation if I were you.
It's certainly more interesting.
And how did you get to find out about the Bagley Boys then? While bits of
Bits of chaff are flying everywhere. I'd seen bits and pieces on the internet, on Facebook and so on and so forth, but also I know some of the people involved. Worked briefly with Boo on things before, and one of the actors who was, I think, one of the first cast, so I was aware of it. But I actually hadn't expected to be involved. And there was an audition a couple of weeks ago, which I knew was going on. I was actually down at my local tip getting rid of some garden waste, and I had a phone call come through from one of the people involved saying, "Are you free to come to an audition now?" So that's how that happened.
And you didn't feel that the tip was it was something that had to be done there and then. You were able to leave it.
No, I carried on, tipped everything I needed to tip, and then went home, changed my t-shirt, and dashed off to the audition.
That was quite interesting because I felt a bit bad actually because I had to miss that workshop because I was on holiday by the seaside. But everyone else seemed to put in a lot of hard work at that. It was very impressive. I saw some of the videos.
Very enjoyable experience. So I do genuinely like auditions that take that kind of format.
Okay, and so you're playing Reverend Moore. Are you drawing on any sort of personal experience for a religious character? Or
in a way, I've had a strange life in some aspects. The Reverend Moore is obviously the vicar of the village of Bagley. It's very Church of England, early 20th century. My own background is Roman Catholic, and I was, for a brief time, a Catholic Benedictine monk.
Wow! So tell me, what does that involve doing?
That involves joining not an entirely closed order, but it was a proper monastery, as you would expect. Not quite Name of the Rose, but wearing the full black robes. Not too dissimilar to this, but with a bit less dust on.
Less agricultural disposal.
and spending the time really devoted to prayer. So there would be, I think it was 6 services in the church throughout the day, and then religious study, manual work within the grounds. And
so can you dispel or confirm some myths for me about monks and monasteries? Number 1, do you brew lots of beer?
No, not all of us. There are those that do.
Number 2, is it silent?
Again, not all of us. Ours was, I suppose you'd say, semi-silent. It wasn't silent in the classical Trappist sense, but there were extensive periods of quiet throughout the day.
And I suppose number 3, removed from, I suppose what would you call it? Modern communities?
Pretty largely so, yes. It's quite, I wouldn't say cut off, because you're still aware of what's happening out in the real world, but it is quite enclosed and slightly distanced, I suppose.
Are you able to take any of that then and use it for your Reverend Moore?
I think it gave me an insight into the general way that religious people, those with convictions, think.
Are you thinking then of a sort of inner calm or an inner sort of peace? Is that what you're...
Partly that, and partly, I would say, about having something other than, well, this, the physical world.
Sure, understand. Okay, so previous acting roles then, I presume this is... you've covered many things, not just reverends, in your experience.
This is the first reverend I played.
Okay.
Yeah. I've done quite a lot of stage work, lots of Shakespeare in the past, filming work has tended to be very far removed from this. It's mainly been a succession of villains, and I do mean proper villains, like one after another, murderers, rapists, serial killers. Actually played Fred West for a TV docudrama, which was for the History Channel, which was frankly disturbing.
There's a joke in here, something about naturally progressing into the priesthood, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do that joke. It would be appalling. Okay, I'm really desperate to pick some bits of stuff out of your head. But no, I'll leave you. I'm not the costume lady. In fact, I have to interview her shortly. Well, thank you very much indeed for your time. And you've got you've just filmed your first scene. Is that right?
That's right. Yes.
And that was with
the delectable stalwart of the community, Mrs. Stanley.
Okay, and your movie. You've got another scene though, just to follow on with.
That's with one of the lads who will be going off to war at some point soon, and that's a chap called Ernest.
Okay.
And he's experiencing some doubt as to the right course of action.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time, and we'll look forward to seeing that scene.
Me too.
Cheerio.
Thank you very much.